Hi, welcome back to the Anti-Alienation Project. My name is Maddie, and here I talk about all things related to a certain form of severe child psychological abuse that I went through for 20 years, currently known as parental alienation. What is parental alienation? This often happens during custody dispute or a divorce, but not always, and it really involves one angry, hurt parent who goes on an obsessive rampage to turn their child against their other loving parent without true justification. I went through this starting at the age of 9. I rejected my dad for the next 20 years because I was made to believe by my mom that he was bad, unloving, abusive, narcissistic, selfish, the list goes on. 2 years ago, I learned the truth, that I had been made to believe lies, false accusations. I had been manipulated and used as a weapon to hurt my dad for 20 years. Since last summer, I've been speaking out against this form of abuse because not many people know about it and how devastating it is. I've also been forming a coalition of adult child survivors of parental alienation. So if you've been through this as a child, please consider joining our support group on Facebook. Today's video is going to be the top 2 lies that mothers tell their daughters. And while this might not seem related to parental alienation at first, I think by the end of the video, you will understand how it is. I need to give it 2 disclaimers. Number 1, I'm not an expert or a counselor. Number 2, I don't speak for all alienated children. Everybody has their own experience. I just talk about my own life and what I've been through. I also want to say that please don't take this video personally if you're a mom out there who's made some of these mistakes. We all learn as we go with parenthood. There is no directory for it. And these are just things that I've noticed, not only with my own mom, but also with a lot of women, a lot of mothers out there. I think these are really harmful trends happening in society, and I thought it was worth sharing. And these are all my beliefs, by the way. Feel free to disagree with me. That's the beauty in life. We can all have our own different opinions. So number 1, the first lie that I notice modern women telling their children, specifically their daughters. Of course, it's important to encourage your daughters to have positive self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-acceptance. But what message do we send to our children if we tell our daughters one thing, yet we live out our lives in a whole nother way? For instance, you can tell your daughter positive messages every day of her life, but kids learn and absorb way more by what they see you do rather than what they hear you say. Even if it's complaining about wrinkles or how old you look in the mirror, talking about cellulite in front of your daughters, stomach fat, whatever it may be, they will internalize that. Let's take it a step further. What message do you think that our daughters take away when we constantly are trying to alter our own appearances? Botox, filler, facelifts, even things like hair extensions or false lashes. When we're so focused on these fake beauty modifications, even if we think that we're hurting no one, our children know that they're made up of half of each parent. Therefore, they know that they have your genetics. They might even look like you. What do you think a small child is going to take away when they see their parent who has essentially an older body with the same genetics that they have, altering their own appearance constantly in order to be happy with themselves or be satisfied with themselves? I'm really afraid that for our daughters especially, this obsession with body modification and the fight against inevitable aging sends a very dangerous message to our daughters. Your genetics are not good enough. Instead of teaching our kids that it's a privilege to live long lives, it's a privilege to be able to age, by obsessively trying to mask our natural aging process, we're teaching our daughters to fear life, to fear aging, to regard old age as something that's dirty, ugly, and not acceptable. You can tell your daughters all day long that they're beautiful, they're wonderful, they're perfect just the way they are. But if you're showing them by your own example that you need to alter yourself constantly to be beautiful, to feel accepted, then everything you tell them about their own self-worth is not going to sink in. They will come to believe that their genetics are not good enough either, that they need to alter themselves to look beautiful and be accepted too. And you do see this playing out in society already, especially with mothers who've gotten a lot of plastic surgery or Botox, or let's not even get started on weight loss drugs and injections. I see this all the time now. The daughters of these mothers are now getting Botox and filler and preventative aging treatments in their 20s. This is crazy. That's the first lie. Children will do as you do. And if your messaging to your child is that you're perfect just the way you are, you're beautiful and loved, but you don't act that belief out in your own life, the message will fall flat. The second lie that I see a lot of modern women perpetuating is really scary, and it's an important one to talk about. It does relate to parental alienation, and that is that mothers are more important, more sacred than fathers. Otherwise known as the slogan, "Mommy knows best." Now, don't get me wrong, I am a mother. I've grown 2 children in my body, nourished them with my body, taken care of them for the past 5 years as a stay-at-home mom. I recognize how sacred and beautiful it is to be able to go through the process of childbirth and pregnancy. And don't get me wrong, femininity is sacred in its own right, but it doesn't end there. So is masculinity. One major lie that I think women have been conditioned to believe and in turn promote is the idea that because the woman is the one who grows the child in her body, births the child physically, and nourishes the offspring with their own resources, and men cannot, women are more essential to the life of that offspring. This goes back to the tender years doctrine. And while I understand that the physical differences between men and women, their bodies and their roles in childcare and child development, I believe it's a grave mistake to use this argument as evidence that mothers are more important than fathers. This is where the tender years doctrine came from. The idea that a child should be with its mother for the first few years of his life. And I do see both sides. I know that babies can't individuate themselves from their mothers until about 8 or 9 months old. I do see how important it is for women to have access to their babies for breastfeeding and bonding. And I do recognize that. At the same time, reputable and peer-reviewed studies have continued to demonstrate the positive effects on a child's development when they have 2 involved and loving parents, as well as the wide array of detrimental outcomes for children who are raised in fatherless or motherless homes. The truth is that most mothers will champion mothers' rights, and most fathers will champion fathers' rights. So who champions for the child's rights? We must come together to realize that children need both parents. A mother and a father have the same amount of value in a child's life. I don't think that this idea that women are better than men, mothers are better than fathers, is helpful or productive at all for the child. So those are the 2 biggest lies that I think that women in today's society are telling their daughters. Number 1, you're perfect the way that you are, even though I'm not. And number 2, mothers are better than fathers, more essential than fathers. These 2 lies do not actually respect the integrity of the child. They're looking out for the mother's best interests. And we have to keep the focus on the child. I hope you found this video insightful or helpful in some way. I do only speak from my own perspective. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't have the perspective of being a son, for example. So I don't exactly have the right insight to be able to say what lies men tell sons, but I do understand that this goes both ways. So I'm interested to hear in the comments. Leave in the comment, what do you think are the biggest lies that parents tell their children these days? Do you agree with my take on this situation? Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.